بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه ثم أما بعد. To proceed, we're still on this book Ubudiyyah, True Slavery, Being a True Slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah and translated by Nasiruddin al-Khattab and published by Taha Publishers. There is another one that's published by Hidayah, another translation of the book published by Hidayah as well. And we're up to page 74 of this book, and it is Jihad. It's titled Jihad, and we said the titles are from the translator. It says here, Jihad means to do one's utmost, to do all that one possibly can, to do that which Allah loves, and to repel that which Allah hates. If a slave fails to do anything he is capable of in jihad, this is indicative of some weakness or imperfection in his love for Allah and His Messenger. Now, this definition of jihad, certainly if you don't say who wrote it, people will say that this is a contemporary scholar trying to hide the actual meaning of jihad. Well, this does not mean that the military struggle is not part of that struggle. It just means that it is certainly not limited to that. And it means that the original meaning of the word itself is from effort, struggle. Jihad is from juhd. Juhd means effort. Jihad means put effort into or spent effort on. So jihad means effort, but it is not any effort. It is a lot of effort. It's effort against resistance, particularly when you tujahid someone, then you struggle against this person. But it is not only that you tujahid someone outside of you. You could jahid yourself, basically your own self. So that's where the word comes from. So if you really want to find a good translation for this word, what would you say? Certainly it would not, to translate this as holy war would be completely ridiculous. Because there is no such expression as holy war in Islam. It doesn't exist. It is basically like, a translation from other nations. The Crusaders had holy war, but we never use the expression of al-harb al-muqaddasa or holy war. So how would you translate jihad then? Struggle in the cause of Allah. Yeah. So I think that, because the struggle, but the struggle would be how jihad would, or how it would translate it linguistically. But given the terminological definition of jihad, it's a struggle for excellence. I think it is struggle for excellence. It is a struggle to reach the station of ihsan, which is excellence. The difference between ihsan and jihad, because if you read this, jihad means to do one's utmost, to do all that one possibly can, and do that which Allah loves, and to repel that which Allah hates. How do you sort this out from ihsan? That is ihsan, right? But ihsan is that station. How you reach it and how you stay in it is the effort. It is the jihad, is the struggle to reach that station and to stay in that station. So jihad is basically a struggle for excellence. It is a struggle for excellence. And then it says it's known that usually one cannot achieve what one loves except by putting up with hardship, tolerating or enduring hardship, whether the object of one's love is worthy or otherwise. Those who love wealth, power, and images do not attain them except by suffering some damage. So basically, except for the people who have no aspirations, they have the most lowly type of souls, which they have no aspirations whatsoever for anything, everybody puts up with hardship. Everybody endures hardship. But people's aspirations vary. People's destinations vary. Someone endures hardship for wealth, for status, power, for, love, etc. And someone, endures hardship for the pleasure of the one who created him, the pleasure of his creator, the pleasure of his maker, the pleasure of his maintainer, sustainer, the pleasure of the one to whom he shall return. But everybody does endure hardship in this life to achieve anything or to attain anything. It is known that the true believer is overflowing with love for Allah, as Allah says, ومن الناس من يتخذ من دون الله أندادا يحبونهم كحب الله والذين آمنوا أشد حبا لله. Yet there are men who take for worship others besides Allah as equals with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They love them as they should love Allah, but those of faith are overflowing in their love for Allah. أشد حبا لله. They are more loving of Allah than anyone would be able to love anything else. Any beloved being, whether it's image means here like man, woman, etc. That's what So any love for anyone that is beloved will not be beloved by his worshipper like Allah is beloved by his worshippers. Because basically the hearts are not made to have that type of love, or the hearts are not made to have love for anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that capacity, to be filled with that love. Indeed, a person who loves Allah, if he is weak in understanding and fails to grasp the correct concepts, may follow a path that does not achieve the desired goal. So he's saying that even a person who loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if his understanding is weak and his willpower is weak, he may not be able to achieve his goal. So he wonders, what about the person that is completely misguided, that did not even identify the correct object of his love, and his love in the first place is misguided love. Certainly that person will be in great loss. Then under a title here, of the title of True Ubudiyyah to Allah, it says, once this is understood clearly, which is that, the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is greater than the love of anything else, and that if you do not identify the object of your love correctly, you will be lost forever. Once this is understood clearly, we will see that the more the heart increases in love, the more it increases in servitude, or ubudiyyah. So basically, how do you worship Allah? How do you fly to Him? What's the bird? Has a head and two wings. What are they? Yeah. So yes, خوف والرجاء والحب. خوف, fear, raja, hope, الحب, love. But what the trunk and the head of the bird, الخوف والرجاء are considered to be the wings, right? That fear and hope. You fear in His reward from His punishment, and you hope in His reward. Those are the two wings. And then when one wing works harder than the other, and you deviate, you need to work the other one harder so that you get back on the straight path. The balance between the fear and the hope. Because some people have excessive fear and they become desperate. And some people have excessive hope and they become reckless. So whenever you find yourself steering into the direction of recklessness, you need to remind yourself of Allah's punishment, and you need to make yourself fearful of that, and vice versa. But the one emotion that should be always existent and that should dominate is love. That should be the dominant feeling. And then he kept on talking about how, without that love, without that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one can never feel happiness or tranquility or peace or serenity, etc., etc. And this is quite expected, because if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who created you, He also created happiness, and He created tranquility and serenity and so on. So wherever you seek them away from Him, you will never find them, even if you have the illusion that you found them. Sometimes you could have the illusion that you found your happiness. I mean, you could be making a lot of money, and then you could be under the illusion that this will make you happy. Or you could marry a certain woman or a certain man, and then you would be under the illusion that that's it, I am done. I don't need to make any other requests. And I'll be happy for the rest of my life. And that is only an illusion. Because unless you find it with the source, until you seek it from the source and you find it with the source, the creator, the maker of happiness, then that happiness is not complete and it is not permanent. It is only an illusion. The beauty of the happiness that you find with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that it is not only unlimited in time, but it is also unlimited in scope. And it is not only unlimited in scope, it is also unlimited in time. So it is something that no one can take away from you, no matter how much you lost. It's sort of guaranteed that you'll continue to be happy and pleased and content and satisfied until you die. Once you have sought it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you have arrived at the station of rida, which is pleasure with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this case, no matter what happens to you, you see those people, they can be afflicted, they can lose their jobs, they can lose their loved ones, they can be poor, they can be this or that. But the one thing that they will never lose is their happiness, which is inside of them. That's what Imam Taymiyyah said about Jannatul Dunya, the Jannah in this dunya. مَنْ لَمْ يَدْخُلْهَا لَمْ يَدْخُلْ جَنَّةَ الْآخِرَةِ. He who doesn't find it, enter it in the dunya, will not enter it in the hereafter. The Jannah that is in the heart of the believer, basically, is that Jannah or paradise, the pleasure with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then he talks about necessity of seeking the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then he says this can only be attained with the help of Allah. This is not the title, because the title is from the author, and sometimes that gets confusing. But this is the last part of the last paragraph above the title, just to keep this in mind. So this can only be attained with the help of Allah, for no one is able to help a person achieve this except Allah. This is what? Finding your tranquility and peace and serenity. Only you do we worship, and only you do we seek help from. Then he goes on and says he can never be free of the pain and hardship of this life except through loving Allah sincerely, so that Allah becomes his ultimate desire, and he loves him for what he is, and he loves anyone or anything else only for his sake. And he does not love anything for its own sake except Allah. Because no one is deserving to be loved for his own sake except Allah. People are loved for their kindness, and people are loved for their good qualities. But that is not their own sake, meaning that's not the that. That's not the inner self. Because that inner self itself is not praiseworthy or blameworthy unless it acquires those good or bad qualities. And the giver of those good and bad qualities is Allah. So ultimately, it is all Allah's. Even when you work on yourself to improve your good qualities and to fight or suppress your bad qualities, without the help and aid of Allah, you would never be able to attain any of those goals. Therefore, the one who deserves to be loved for his self is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. True servitude to Allah, at the bottom of the page here, at the last paragraph on page 76, he says, true servitude to Allah cannot be achieved and perfected except when these two concepts of Ilah and Rabb are properly understood. So he goes on to the talk about Tawheed al-Uloohiyyah and Tawheed al-Ruboobiyyah. Tawheed al-Uloohiyyah, which is the oneness, to single Allah out as the only, we said Ruboobiyyah or Uloohiyyah? Tawheed al-Ruboobiyyah is to single Allah out as the only Rabb, Lord. And Tawheed al-Uloohiyyah is to single Allah out as the only Ilah, God. And the difference between them is what? Is the one Tawheed is about Him, the other one is about you. The one that is about Him is Tawheed al-Ruboobiyyah, to single Him out as the only Rabb, to believe that He is the only creator, owner, and maintainer of this universe. Creator, owner, and maintainer of this universe. So He creates and He owns without a partner. And He also manages the affairs of this universe without a helper. Once you have understood this, then it comes natural to have Tawheed al-Uloohiyyah, to single Him out or as the only God. Because if He created alone, and He owns alone, and He maintains it alone without partners or helpers, then why should you seek intercessors or mediators or partners in your pursuit of Him, pursuit of the divine? If He's in control of everything, and He's aware of you, and He sees you, and He hears you, and He doesn't have aides or helpers and so on, so why should you then seek Him through mediums? So that is Tawheed al-Uloohiyyah. And one's Ubudiyyah should never be complete until that is fulfilled. Then on page 77 here, at the end of the first paragraph, when he resorts to any means, he realizes that Allah is the one who has created it, decreed it, and subjugated it to Him, and that Allah is the controller, creator, and subjugator of all that is in the heaven and on earth, and that He is in need of Him, then he has attained true servitude. You see, at one time a priest was speaking in some interfaith dialogue to a group of Muslims and Christians, and the priest kept on talking about monotheism as, you know, at the core of Christian dogma, monotheism. The Creator is one, this and that. And everybody sat down for the entire meeting and no one raised any concern, and no one, you know, and I understand that sometimes it gets to be quite embarrassing to say anything else, but no one even hinted that this is not all monotheism, that all of what you're talking about is Tawheed al-Ruboobiyyah, that Allah is the creator, there is only one God that created, one God that controls and owns, and so on and so forth. But what about the other aspect of Tawheed, which is Tawheed al-Uloohiyyah? What about what you do? Will you supplicate to Allah alone, whether you seek help from Allah alone, that is what matters. Not only what you believe of Him, what you think of Him, but also how you interact with Him and pursue Him. So there was only one woman, one convert woman who converted 2 years prior, that stood up and said, but this is not all of Tawheed, this is just part of it. In Islam, there is the other part, which is... So many of the people in the audience were professors in Islamic studies and Aqidah and Fiqh and so on and so forth. So like, okay. Anyway. So what I'm trying to say is, if you will be embarrassed, hint it, say anything, just do, try to make the truth manifest without being offensive. You don't need to be offensive. You should not be offensive, but try to make the truth manifest, because it is your obligation and duty to make the truth manifest in such cases. Because your silence, and particularly if you have a group of professors in Islamic studies and Aqidah and Fiqh and so on and so forth, and they stay silent and they don't point out that there is some difference here, that could create confusion in the minds of a lot of people. Then under the title of the best people, he says, the best and most perfect of people, the highest and closest to Allah, the strongest and most rightly guided are those whose servitude to Allah is most perfect in this regard. This is the true essence of the religion of Islam, with which Allah sent His Messenger and revealed His books, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It means to submit oneself to Allah and to no other. For the one who submits himself to Allah and to someone or something else is a mushrik, and the one who refuses to submit to Him is arrogant and stubbornly proud. It is reported in a Sahih that the Prophet ﷺ said that no one will enter paradise who has an atom's weight of pride in his heart, just as no one will remain in hellfire forever who has an atom's weight of faith in his heart. So stubborn pride is regarded as the opposite of faith. If you think about it, no one will enter paradise with an atom's weight of pride in his heart. No one will stay in the hellfire forever with an atom's weight of faith in his heart. So they are mutually exclusive, right? The pride and Iman are mutually exclusive, because the one who will enter paradise should not have an atom's weight of pride in his heart. Mutually exclusive. Allah says, might is my garment and pride is my cloak. Whoever competes with me in either of them, I will punish him. Reported by Muslim. Might and pride are characteristics of divinity. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, notice here that Allah said, might is my lower garment, izar. Al-izzatu izari wal-kibriya'u ridai. So al-izzatu izari, al-izza is might, al-kibriya is pride, izar is the lower garment, it's the lower wraparound garment. In Hajj, men wear two garments, an upper one and a lower one. The lower one is called izar, wraparound lower garment. The upper one is called rida. Which means that the pride is greater than izzah. Pride is higher than izzah. Because pride is the upper garment, and izzah is the lower garment, or might is the lower garment. For this reason, the slogan or motive of the prayer, adhan, and the two Eids is Allahu Akbar. So that is the slogan of the Muslim, in adhan. So the five reminders the 5 adhans work as 5 reminders every day that, that Allah is greater. So you, like when you hear the adhan and when you say Allahu Akbar at the beginning of your salah, you should really feel it, you should really sense it deep inside your heart. It should say to yourself that pride is not your territory, that if you transgress into that territory, you need to leave it right away, immediately, because this territory does not belong to you. And guess whom it belongs to? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you're actually transgressing into Allah's territory, the most specific for Him. So that territory is only His. Allahu Akbar, Allah is greater. So pride is something that you should stay away from and never come close to. It is beautiful how he put them in contrast. Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, he put those two in contrast. These are two different hadiths. One hadith says that no one will enter paradise with an atom's weight of pride in his heart. And the other hadith says that no one shall remain in the hellfire with an atom's weight of faith in his heart. Put them together, and you will find that no one will remain in the hellfire, meaning they will enter paradise eventually. You put them together, you find that an atom's weight of faith and an atom's weight of pride are mutually exclusive. They cannot coexist. So then he goes on to another topic here, which is titled, "Every person must have a focus for his love. Everyone who is too proud and arrogant to worship Allah inevitably worships something else, for man is sensitive and is always motivated by ideas." It is reported in al-Sahih that the Prophet ﷺ said, "The truest names, أصدق الأسماء الحارث وهمام." The truest names are Harith and Hammam. Harith means one who is active and always doing things. Harith is the sower of seeds. Harith is the tiller of the land. Hammam, it comes from what? Harth is telling. Harth is telling, so the tiller of the land. Hammam comes from what? From, Ham and Himma. Ham and Himma. Ham and Himma. Himma means what? Willpower. Hamma bishay'in, he embarked on something. So Ham comes from the intent. So Hammam, the one who intends, because man is always intending to do something. Is always you always have intentions. In fact, if someone asks you to do anything without intention, you will fail. If you try to do anything without intention, you will fail. You can't. You can't do it. If you're conscious, you cannot do anything without intention. Right? You cannot. How could you? You can't. So أصدق الأسماء الحارث وهمام. So the tiller here means what? The tiller means the doer. The doer. So he is always a doer, man. أصدق الأسماء, the truest of names, because they correspond to the one being named, a human being. So that's why those are the truest names for human beings, Harith and Hammam. Because the human being is always a doer, and with that, he is always one who has like intention, or one who intends. So he says here that you must find the focus for your love, and you must find the focus for your life, because you will always be after something, doing something and after something. So he says here, and hammam means one who is always looking for things to do. Ideas are the beginning of will, and man always has a will which inevitably needs an objective and a focus. Every person must have an ultimate aim, which is the focus of his love and will. If a person does not have Allah as the focus of his love and will, and is too proud and arrogant, he will inevitably have something else as his focus. So, if you think that you want to be independent and you want to be free and you want to be the master of yourself, your own master, you can never be that. You can never be that. If you don't take Allah as your ultimate master and your objective and focus, you will have another one, for sure, no matter what. Now, even if that thing is your desire, because your desire can hold you captive. Your desire can hold you captive. One of the ways some of our mashayikh used to discourage people from smoking is to go to the person and say to him, the smoker, and say to him, this cigar that you throw underneath your shoes, that's what they usually do in Egypt. It is your master. And then if he says to him, no, it's, what are you talking about? He says, quit it if you can. So, since you can't quit it, it is your master. It has control over you. You are a subject of that cigarette or of tobacco. So that's what it is. I mean, if you think that you want to be your own master and you want to be free, you will never be free unless you be a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then you can be free of all things that are harmful. Because being a servant of Allah and a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the ultimate happiness. As I said, if He is the creator of happiness, don't seek it elsewhere, because He is the maker. So seek it with Him. Then at the top of page 79 here, he says, if he is a slave to anything other than Allah, he is a mushrik. And everyone who is stubbornly proud and arrogant is a mushrik. Hence, Pharaoh was one of the most arrogant of all people. And it is amazing that Pharaoh was considered to be a mushrik, even though he said, "Ana rabbukum al-a'la," I am your Lord the Most High. But deep inside, you cannot, even if you claim that you are the Lord Most High, you will be enslaved to others. You will be enslaved. The kings are enslaved to their aides, and because they fear that if their aides rebel against them, or they're, the chief of his army or chief of this or that, that they will lose their kingdom. You're always tied to something. You can break free from all this if you become a true slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he says, there are many other similar references in the Quran. Allah described Pharaoh as a mushrik in the ayah such and such. Anyway, so that the lesson from this is that despite the fact that Pharaoh said, "Ana rabbukum al-a'la," I am your Lord the Most High, he was still a slave of other deities, because he would not be able to break free from that. Indeed, all the evidence indicates that the more arrogant a man is in his refusal to worship Allah, the more guilty he is of associating others with Allah. Because the more arrogant he is in his refusal to worship Allah, the more dependent he becomes on the desired goal, which is the ultimate focus of his heart. Think about it. The most enslaved of all people are the atheists. Because, even if you worship three, you just worship three, right? But then there is a hereafter. After this life, there is a hereafter. But if this is it, and whatever you miss in it, you can never gain back, or you will never have. You have one existence. This is it. So you're enslaved to every pleasure in this life. You're just, because you want, whatever it is that you will miss here, it is over. You lost it. So that will make you dependent on, every single pleasure in this life. You want to get of it as much as you can. You want to get of the power and money and status and spouses or mates and this and that as much as you could collect. And you become the slave of all of those, and that is really miserable. That's why, the studies have shown, the studies come up almost, weekly or so, or monthly. Good studies that the atheist health is worse than the health of the believers or those who believe, regardless of their belief. The heart can never be independent of other created beings unless Allah is its master and it worships none other than Him, seeks help from none other than Him, places its trust in none other than Him, rejoices only in that which He loves, despises only that which He hates, loves only for the sake of Allah, hates nothing except for the sake of Allah, does not give except for the sake of Allah. Basically, once you find yourself a focus, you will break free from one of the worst turmoils in this life. You know what? The lack of focus, or the many focuses. If you don't find, if Allah is not your focus, and if you don't have like a manual to go by, if you don't have like a plan for your life made out by someone else that happened to be your creator, then you will be all the time thinking of a plan for your life, a manual to go by, and to manage yourself, to manage your daily routine, to manage your spouse. If you have to think about all of this, sometimes you do this spontaneously or on an ad hoc basis. It just happens. Customs make part of it, so you follow the customs. But then customs don't have that authority, that much of an authority over you. So you'll be always in turmoil, how to go about it. Oftentimes, as a believer, the decision is made for you. The decision, and people may think that this is burdensome, but it is actually a relief of so much burden. So you have to first ask, what is this halal to do? Once you have asked if this is halal to do, you have actually limited the spectrum of choices greatly. And then you'll just focus on, whatever it is that is in front of my face now. Oftentimes you will get hints also. If you're thinking about two majors and you're sort of you can't make up your mind you can get a hint that likely this major is better than the other major. I can serve my deen better if I take this major, serve my ummah better. So you'll get some direction. If you have two like potential spouses, suitors, etc., you will get also some hint that no, this one looks more this or that. But it's halal to marry this, it's halal to marry the other one, but you get some hints, and you don't get, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leaves you plenty of room to choose what suits you and what suits your inclinations, but the limitation at the outset will be quite helpful and will remove much of the turmoil and anguish of making a choice of many alternatives. Next, he will talk about shirk and arrogance, but I'll defer this inshallah until next time and just take questions now. So basically, we talked today about love. We talked about the definition of jihad, and we said that had it not been that we know that this Imam Taymiyyah, lived in the 7th and 8th century, you would have said that this is Karen Armstrong trying to hide the true meaning of jihad. Because if the definition of Ibn Taymiyyah is jihad means to do one's utmost, to do all that one possibly can, to do that which Allah loves, and to repel that which Allah hates. So it just is the broader spectrum. And then we talked about this jihad, or struggle for excellence, which is the better translation for jihad. And we talked about the Ubudiyyah to Allah, and we talked about the two aspects of it, which is to worship Him as the only Rabb and as the only Ilah. So think of Him as the only creator, owner, and controller, maintainer, and think of, and also don't forget the other aspect, which is that you should only seek help from Him, rely on Him, pursue Him alone. And then we talked about the best of people, those who perfected their servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we talked about the concept of shirk, of Fir'aun, even, and that you will always be mushrik and you will always be enslaved to something if you're not a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if you claim to be the Lord Most High. And we talked about working to find yourself a focus, an objective in your life, a focus of your love, to avoid the turmoil of the distraughtness of having no one focus. And that's it. These are the issues we discussed. Questions?